Welcome back to Independent Blazers. I'm Dan.
And I'm Joe. And Dan,
And today, Joe.
we have an interesting topic. But first, like, subscribe, share, and bang the notification button, folks. It helps the algorithm. It helps us. It helps you share with your family and friends. Also, follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, for bonus content where we can say things probably we can't say here. Dan?
All right. Well, today, Rick has picked a video for us. And it's about Christopher Hitchens. It's going to be one of those response videos. There's also going to be a reaction. There's a high probability that I've never seen this video before. Joe, have you seen the one that Rick mentioned?
No, I have not. I'm familiar with Christopher Hitchens. He died, I believe, in 2011, I believe.
Something. Yeah.
He was a atheist, but he was a very smart guy. He did a lot. He wrote for Vanity Fair, I believe. He did a lot of the intellectual debates, and he also spoke out in the Iraq War a lot. He was definitely a very smart guy, and I have to admit, I didn't always agree with him, but I respected him, and especially his debating style. And he's definitely an intellectual pioneer, whether people liked him or not. He was an intellectual giant.
Yeah. And I got to admit, as far as character goes, I would have much rather debated with him than with Richard Dawkins, because Richard Dawkins, even though I think he's on point, spot on in a lot of his arguments, his character, the way he treats his debating opponent, it's not how I like it.
Yeah, he's mellowed out recently, but I've watched him recently. He's mellowed out, but Christopher Hitchens, even if I disagree with him, he's so smart. Even if I thought I was right, there's no way I can hang with him. I mean, there was no way I can hang with him. So,
right. And John Lennox, John Lennox, he's the one that I admit I don't agree with often, but he's super smart as well. And he once debated with Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah, I've watched him too. I've watched Daniel Craig, the Christian apologetics guy. And again, Christopher Hitchens is a smart guy. Also a brilliant writer. He was a critical thinker. One of the top modern critical thinkers of the modern day, I would say, the modern times. And if you just go back and watch videos, even if you don't agree with him, you have to admit he's well thought out. He's very calm when he debates. You don't see him get flustered. No. And he's very calm when he goes about breaking points down. So I'm looking forward to this video, and we're going to see here for a reaction, folks, in real time.
All right, Rick, show us what you got.
Let's see here. All right, here we go. This is an interesting.
The Church said Newman, holds it better for the sun and moon to drop from heaven, for the earth to fail, and for all the many millions on it to die in extremest agony, than that one soul, I will not say will be lost, but should commit one venial sin, should tell one willful untruth, or should steal one farthing without excuse. You'll have to say it's beautifully phrased, ladies and gentlemen. But to me, and here's my proposition, what we have here, and picked from no mean source, is a distillation of precisely what is twisted and immoral in the faith mentality. It's essential fanaticism, its consideration of the human being as raw material, and its fantasy of purity. Once you assume a creator and a plan, it makes us objects in a cruel experiment whereby we are created sick and commanded to be well. I'll repeat that. Created sick and then ordered to be well.
Can you stop it?
To supervise.
That argument, basically what he's saying, right? For the viewers out there, and I'll see if Dan agrees and if Rick wants to jump in. He's basically saying God is like a gangster, and we're in this experiment. And he's basically saying, look, it's a cruel experiment with this supposed God is putting us through. Because think about it. And again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I'm just giving the interpretation here because This is real-time reaction. Basically, God supposedly created us, right? You believe if you're a Christian, born into sin, right? So we're created flawed, right? And so basically, what Christopher Hitchens is saying, look, this religion is garbage, right? And he's saying, look, this God is cruel. If there is a God, he's cruel for putting us through this experiment. Dan, you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, I don't know about the gangster part, but I always wondered. Those who say, quote unquote, God has a plan, okay, that means, yeah, that means predestination versus our own free will. And then I've also heard people say, that's not the way God intended it. I'm like, okay. So, God's not all powerful to stop it, or he's not all knowing, saying it's not going to go the way he wanted it to go. I've always had issues when people say either God has a plan, or that's not what God meant, or that's not how God intended it to be.
Right. The gangster part is what I mean is, if, according to Christopher Hitchens, he's basically saying, look, this religion and what this God's plan is bunk. And if God's doing it, he's cruel. If this God's allowing it, and actually, the comedian Bill Burr, have you ever heard of him?
Yeah. Yes.
He basically did a skit one time. He was talking about, not as serious as Christopher Hitchens is, but he's basically saying, look, basically, you created me messed up. You created me flawed, and you want to hold me accountable.
Right. And Christopher Hitchens says, he created us sick, but he wants us to be well. It's like, no. And also, I once asked a Baptist minister, I'm not going to say his name, a pastor, I asked him, so apparently the vast majority of us, the overwhelming majority of us, are going to hell. And he said, for eternity, he said, that's what the Bible says. I thought, well, I said, I don't know if I believe it. I said, well, I believe it because the Bible's the word of God. I said, not good enough. But anyway, shall we continue with the video?
Yes.
Okay.
This is installed a celestial dictatorship, a kind of divine North Korea. Greedy, exigent, I would say more than exigent, greedy for unquenchable praise from dawn till dawn.
That's what I mean by gangster. That's what's seen in this video. That's what I meant by gangster. He's sort of like he said, they can invade North Korea. All right, that's all I got.
Exigent, I would say more than exigent, greedy for uncritical praise from dawn till dusk, and swift to punish the original sins with which it so tenderly gifted us in the very first place. However, let no one say there's no cure. Salvation is offered. Redemption, indeed, is promised at the low price of the surrender of your critical faculties. Religion, it might be said, must be said, would have to admit, makes extraordinary claims, but though I would maintain that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, rather daringly provides not even ordinary evidence for its extraordinary supernatural claims. Therefore, we might begin by asking, and I'm asking my opponent as well as you, is it good for the world to appeal to our credulity and not to our skepticism? Is it good for the world to worship a deity that takes sides in wars and human affairs? To appeal to our fear and to our guilt, is it good for the world? To our terror of death, is it good to appeal? To preach guilt and shame about the sexual act and the sexual relationship, is this good? To terrify children with the image of hell and eternal punishment, not just of themselves, but of their parents and those they love. Perhaps worst of all, to consider women an inferior creation. Is that good for the world? And can you name me a religion that has not done that? There is actually only one cure for poverty as a country, and everybody knows it. And it's well understood, and it's perfectly simple. It's called the empowerment of women. If you give women control, if you will allow women control over the number of times they have babies, I'll just put it as family style as that.
That doesn't look like Christopher Hitchens to me. That looks like an advertisement.
You'll give them that and maybe throw in a handful of seeds and a bit of credit. If you do that, the floor of the whole society will rise. Everything, the whole floor of development will rise. That's the proposition Mother Teresa dedicated her life to opposing. Name me a monotheistic religion that dedicates itself to the empowerment of women. Religion forces nice people to do unkind things, and it also makes intelligent people say stupid things. Handed a small baby for the first time, is it your first reaction to think, beautiful, almost perfect? Now please hand me the sharp stone for its genitalia, that I may do the work of the Lord. No. It is, as the great physicist Steven Weinberg has very aptly put it, in the ordinary moral universe, the good will do the best they can, the worst will do the worst they can. But if you want to make good people do wicked things, you'll need religion. Everyone in the civilized world has roughly agreed, including...
Well, I'll tell you, you don't need religion to get good people to do wicked things. Political parties is all you need. All you need is someone to sell their own political agenda and ignore the faults of their own political party, but see everything wrong with the other one. See no good in the other one and see only good in your own. I've seen both sides do it. I mean, both sides is in America, but I've seen other countries do it as well.
Yeah, I don't think you need for people to do bad things. I don't agree with that, but yeah. I see where he's coming from, but yeah, I think we're good enough as humans. We can do bad things on our own. I don't need a religious influence.
No, but at the same time, I have asked people, Christians in particular, they've criticized killing in other religions, and I agreed with them. They said, look at that, how barbaric it is. And I said, right. Now look at the Old Testament. I say, look at all those killings, the slaughterings, including of children and animals, commanded by Yahweh, the biblical God. They go, well, it's different. It was commanded by God. I said, what if a person of another religion says that you think they're delusional, you think they're schizophrenic, mentally ill? Now take a look at you. They didn't see it though. So anyway, I guess we should move on.
Everyone in the civilized world has roughly agreed, including the majority of Arabs and Jews and the international community, that there should be enough room for two states, for two peoples in the same land. I think we have a rough agreement on that. Why can't we get it? The UN can't get it. The US can't get it. The Quartet can't get it. The PLO can't get it. The Israeli parliament can't get it. Why can't they get it? Because the parties of God have a veto on it, and everybody knows that this is true. Because of the divine promises made about this territory, there will never be peace. There will never be compromise. There will instead be misery, shame, and tyranny, and people will kill each other's children for ancient books and caves and relics. And who is going to say that this is good for the world? Do you wish it to be true that there is someone who has you under permanent, round-the-clock supervision and surveillance, who knows what you think even when you are asleep, who can convict you, I borrow again from the Big Brother analogy, of thought crime, and who can condemn you forever to eternal penalty and torture if you make the smallest mistake, who creates you sick, who makes you a sinner, who says you are originally wicked, and then orders you to be well and to recover on penalty of torture. What is this but the most horrific sadomasochistic prostration of the human personality before the most interstellar coldness of authority and tyranny? Why does anyone wish this was true? To emancipate oneself from this, it seems to me, is the beginning of the long story of human liberation. And from very early days, from Democritus, from Lucretius, from Epicurus, all the way through to Spinoza, to Einstein, to our own day, that's been the real struggle. The right to look the churches and the priests and the godheads in the eye and say, I don't believe it. I don't believe a word of it, and you can't make me. It's the beginning of civilization, as well as the beginning of liberation. There are
right,
people who will when a grenade is lobbed.
Now, I don't want to go for too long on this one, but even people who don't believe in any higher power or spirit whatsoever can commit horrible atrocities, and some of the worst mass murderers in the 20th century were communists.
Of
I
course.
mean, that go, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, people have tried to tell me, hey, I don't know atheists ever committing mass murder in the name of atheism. I said, oh, I do. Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, and many, 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 many more.
Some would argue, people of faith would argue, well, yeah, you have a God, it's the government, or it's this, or it's your socialism, or it's communism. And Christopher Hitchens, I think what he's trying to portray is, look, if you would just let go of religion and just open your mind, it would unleash human possibilities. Mm-hmm. And some atheists, like you just said, it's also want the other way, to be fair. It's what with Stalin and others, it's also gone the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There are people who will, when a grenade is lobbed through the window, throw themselves on it before it can blow up. It does happen. There are people who die under torture without.
If you're a native or fluent English-speaking Western expat living in Thailand, and you're looking for a new online career that enables
Giving away the whereabouts of their comrades. There are people who go do bomb disposal work and sit defusing huge device. They know any minute. It does happen. It's always happened. It's common to every known human society. It's a part of every heroic narrative of every known society there's ever been. Those who do it are honored. And it doesn't require divine sanction or permission. It is something we can all aspire to.
Yes,
But we do not get it from Big Brother. If we did, that would degrade it. It would mean it wasn't heroic. It wasn't brave. It wasn't individual. It wasn't exemplary.
Why are these things
Didn't deserve anything. Because it would be in the hope either of a reward from Big Brother or for fear of punishment from it. It would abolish morality.
Why?
It destroys ethics. It means the individual example is dust.
Okay, can I?
I used to wonder when I was a child.
Stop. Yeah. Stop it.
I have another video that you weren't here for. I made an analogy about flat earthers. Now, I mentioned people who are willing to be tortured and not give away. Here's a question: what if a bunch of flat earthers were jailed, tortured heavily, persecuted, even murdered, but all they had to do to go free and live a prosperous life was to deny the earth is flat, but they refused to do so, and they allowed themselves to get tortured to death? Would that make the earth actually flat?
Of course not.
Right, but people are willing to die for their beliefs, and you hear it all the time. People have died for different religions. People have even died for communism because they believe in it so much. But that doesn't make something true just because someone is willing to.
But the fact of the matter is, we don't know if we won't. It's one of those things like we don't know 100%. And Christopher Hitchens, he's articulate, he's well spoken, he gives a convincing argument, but he does, and he makes a lot of incredible points so far. But there's a couple of things, as we discussed earlier in this video, is that atheists and people that non-believers have committed atrocities too, and they're willing to die for their unbelief or their belief in government. So it just doesn't happen on one side.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, but
So-
it wasn't out of fear, it's got a true belief. But anyway, let's, shall we continue?
Yes.
I used to wonder when I was a child, what's it like when they told me, here's what hell is like. I could see what hell would be like. Eternal punishment for things I'd never done. I could get that point all right. But eternal praise for an eternal leader that goes on forever, always thanking him, always groveling to him, always sprawling in front of him. I thought, sounds like hell to me. But I couldn't picture it. I've been in North Korea, I can picture it. The sprawling, the abject groveling of a whole people in front of a godhead. It's a totally worshipful state with a god, and it's the most horrible tyranny on the face of the earth, possibly ever on the face. Yeah.
All right,
And
guys.
I've been there, and I've never been so happy to leave anywhere in my entire life.
Now I see what he's saying. Dan, if I saved your life, and you would be grateful, right?
Of course, absolutely.
But what if I kept rubbing it in your face every day, and I expected you to thank me every day?
At some point, I'd probably wish I'd died but it relates to what I also said, the question I asked you before. If I poisoned you and then told you I poisoned, and I said, but here's the antidote, but now you must be grateful to me the rest of your life that I'm giving you the antidote, what would you think? What would you think?
Well, right, you wouldn't get credit because you poisoned me to begin with.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Praising what? The person who put me here, the one who put me in the circumstances in the first place, and I'm supposed to thank them for not doing me harm? It's like,
Now,
that's just plain.
the counter argument would probably be, we're not God. We don't have the mind of God. Now, I see where he's coming from here, because a lot of religions believe you go to heaven, you're going to eternally praise God in heaven. So he's talking out, he's likening that to, like, people in North Korea, praising the great leader.
Yeah, and there's only so long. It's like, come on, how much thanks do we need to give? Eternity? Come on.
As a type of tyranny, sort of a type of. So that's interesting. Ready to move on? Go on. All right.
Yeah. Rick?
And I've been there, and I've never been so happy to leave anywhere in my entire life, which North Koreans can't do. They can't. They can't get out of it. They're locked in that jail, that godly jail forever. But at least you can die and get out of North Korea. Monotheism doesn't allow you that. When you die, according to Judaism, of which Christianity is a plagiarism, and to Islam, which is a plagiarism of Judaism, an ignorant plagiarism of Judaism and Christianity, that's when the fun really begins. That's when the tyranny really starts. That's when you find out who's boss. Who wants this to be true? Who thinks that this kind of servile, abject, groveling, fearful life, the preparation for an eternity of misery and shame, is worth having, is worth defending, is worth speaking up for? Risky though it is, terrifying though it can be, that our only hope, and actually also our only joy with this great risk, is that of thinking for ourselves and realizing it cannot be done for us. There are no redeemers, there are no eternal fathers, there is no dear leader, there is no great leader, there is no supreme leader to whom we can look for our own rescue, morally or intellectually. I'll leave you with that thought, and I thank you very much for your attention to me. Thank you.
Well, Dan, what is your summation of this video? This is the first time, and we watched it here in real time.
Yeah, my thoughts. That's basically been my thoughts. I've always wondered that, a lot of what he's wondered. And I said also about the concept of original sin. We're supposed to pay for something we didn't do. Now, I'll tell you this, even as just an American alone, people have blamed me for things I couldn't have done, but on the flip side, people also thanked me for things I couldn't have done. Now,
Right.
yeah, and neither one of them are rational. I'm like, okay, whether you are anti-American or you're pro-American or whatever, you shouldn't be thanking me for something that somebody else did for you or to you. I said, it's just not rational. And so I think that, yeah, that's irrational. And then I think, wait a minute, we're paying for something that someone else did, or the controversial sin, yet Yahweh knew that Adam and Eve were going to do that, knew that they were going to blow it, quote unquote, and that we were going to suffer for it, and the vast majority of us were going to spend eternity in hell.
Well, I will say this about the video. Christopher Hitchens is a smart man. He's well thought.
Yeah.
He was well thought. He is an intellectual heavyweight, and he does put some compelling arguments out there that make you think. And obviously, he's coming from an anti-religious point of view, obviously, because there was a few things in the video. Well, atheists, like we talked about, we've tried to fairly point out, a lot of atheists have done bad too, have killed people in the name of their belief system. Mm-hmm. But yes, in religion, there has been a lot of killing. You look in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine, the constant fighting, and it all centers around belief, religion, belief.
Well, but in reality, that's used up front, Joe. Sorry, but religion and socialism and all other things, freedom, that's all up front for resources. In reality, we fight for resources and strategic points, but we got to give some sense of morality to the people.
True, but what he's talking about is religion has been used. He's saying it also has damaged the world because of ancient writings. And when he used the Middle East, when he talked about that a lot of people want a two-state solution, people have tried both sides, whether it is for resources or not, they've used religious texts as the justification for, I'm not denying that people don't use real religion and stuff for resources and things of that nature. But the fact is, his argument is religion is not a good thing. It's, if you just look at it on the surface, it's a bad thing. Now, obviously, maybe we'll do a video. We'll hear the other side, the flip side. Who knows? But again, it is thought-provoking. It does make you think. And he was like him or not, he was a fascinating writer and intellectual giant.
There was.
Anything else to add?
No, nothing else to add. So, except now, please, folks, like, subscribe, share, bang the notification bell,
and
as it helps the algorithm. Go ahead.
Put your opinions in the comments. What do you think of the response? What do you think of Christopher? Do you agree with him? Do you disagree? Or do you find you like some things that he said and others you didn't? So please, just be respectful in the comments. We want to hear from you.
Yes, I'd like to hear we both like to hear your opinions.
Yeah.
If you agree with us, great, but articulate it in your own words. If you disagree with us, even better, but articulate it in your own words. So meanwhile, folks, grab your independent mind and blaze.
Yeah.